From high atop the mountaintop of Mount Manitoba, it's the Hall of Fame show, but it's not really the Hall of Fame show. I'm your host, Kirk Buckner, the owner, the operator of NotHallOfFame.com, and I've got something really special. Are you interested in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Well, you better be, because you clicked on this goddamn thing. So let's hope that this is the case. I have put together a group of people who really give a shit about hockey and the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's why a lot of us are wearing sort of like hockey jerseys here. Look at this. Winnipeg Jets. Because again, yes, look at that. Look at all of you.
National champions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a jersey, but I have myself a hat here.
Yes,
New York Rangers.
because we're high atop the mountaintop of NotHallOfFame.com. And what we're going to do today, and if you've been on us before, you know this is what we do. We have committees. We talk about all this stuff, baseball, football, all sorts of things. But hockey, this is our first one. So what do they do in the Hockey Hall of Fame? What do they do? Well, that's kind of the interesting thing, because it's kind of a cluster FUCK. Sort of, kind of, however you want to look at it. And let me just say what they do right. Here's what they did right. They started this early, so early that when last year they said, well, due to COVID, we're not going to have a ceremony, it didn't really affect the pecking order all that much. But it's still, here's what they do wrong. It's not transparent. So there's 18 people who this weekend, as we're recording this, are going to get together and they're going to decide who's in the Hockey Hall. Who's the nominees? I don't know. Couldn't tell you, because they don't tell us. We know who's eligible. It's anyone who is not playing as in the last 3 years. So at least we got
professional hockey.
Professional hockey.
Yes, it shocks me that Jaromir Jagr is still not eligible.
And Glenn, I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, Jaromir Jagr, you're thinking like, why is he 50? Hall of Fame? He's 50. He says he's going to keep playing in whatever Czech or Slovakian league he's in. Czech and Slovakia, I don't know, but he's still playing. Hence, he is not Hockey Hall of Fame eligible. So, where do we go? Where do we go now? Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Because a lot of you don't know what the hell I was doing with that GNR thing. But let's just look at who we think should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now, if you go by what they say should be, it's only going to be maximum 4 players. Are we going to go maximum 4 players for our purposes? And let's just
Okay. I think there are 4 out there that have been overlooked.
But they did nothing last year. So are we going to say 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8? So before we go any further, let's get a number.
Well, do we know what they're doing this year?
No.
That's ridiculous.
Again,
yeah, I guess
Kirk
we could
just
max
said they're
out at
non-transparent.
8.
Yeah, and big props to the Football Hall of Fame for starting to get the paradigm right, in terms of the transparency, and even moving more transparent. But I mean, what the hockey folks do is just awful, and it's bias against certain players that maybe they didn't like in their playing careers.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Jeremy Roenick, who I don't really like, but
okay,
I respect his career.
All right, so I'm glad we brought up Roenick. So okay, there's 7 of us here. I'm hoping Evan's going to join us later. So here's what I suggest we do. If it's only 5 of 7 or 6 of 8, we all have to be at least that number to say that we would put them through. So before we go any further, there's 3 players right now who are Hockey Hall of Fame eligible, who I think we can eliminate right now. Glenn, you might disagree with 2 of them, or maybe
we'll see.
Or maybe I misread your sarcasm. I'd like to think I know you well. Maybe I don't. So there's 3 people right now who are eligible for the first time this year: Daniel Sedin, Henrik Sedin, Roberto Longo.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Those are obvious
Is
ones.
that, is that you,
No-
Chris? Okay, yeah. All right, so
Yeah, but I don't know how obvious. I think they are, but like a
It's
Daniel
just so
Alfredson
tough for
did-
goalies to get in on that first ballot.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
it, sorry to interrupt. What are we agreeing they're all worthy, or are we agreeing
I'm throwing that out there. I don't
we
know.
would all put them in as the final four? Because what
Well, is it
I'm
final four or final five or final six.
or right. So I think so there are, if I had it correctly, just players wise, there are 74 names that are that the actual Hockey Hall of Fame themselves put on the site that were under consideration. And if we narrow that list down to 20
Mhm.
or 15, I think those names are all still on there. I think maybe that would be a good starting ground, is for us to just narrow down who we're even considering at this
Okay.
point.
All right,
Uh,
so we can just sort of like, we've got these three who I thought maybe we could eliminate right off the bat, but I think before we go further with that, are we saying, because according to the Hockey Hall, they want to do like maximum 4. Are we doing maximum 8? Because they did nothing last year.
Well, the Sedins would have been eligible for 2020
Right,
or 21. So
Yeah.
you're thinking of breaking it down by year, by who would have been eligible. That would have been 2 from last class that weren't voted on.
Okay.
They're now part of the 2022 class.
so to that point, Chris, let's say, can we all agree as a group? Let's put in 6 former players.
Okay.
All
I
right.
think 6 is a good number.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 is a good number. Are we eliminating Daniel and Henrik at this point and saying they're in?
I would say they're in based on their careers.
Hmm.
Are in the final 6.
Well,
I would say they're in. I think
okay,
they're,
not just the final 6. Are we saying like they're inducted and we're looking at 4 left?
That's what I'm saying. Are you saying that they're in our final 6?
I would like to, but I'm willing to listen to anyone who says they're not.
I'd like to narrow it down a little more before we get to that point.
I agree.
Makes sense.
Neither one of them won a championship. Obviously, they played for the same team their whole career. They're both certainly worthy, and I'm not saying that they're not. Neither of them hit 400 goals. Neither of them hit 1,100 points. And even out of first-year eligible players, you could argue, because the Hall of Fame does put Olympic gold medal on their criteria as well, which the Sedins each have one. But Henrik Zetterberg is also a player in that same general category to me that also has a Stanley Cup to his name. And a Conn Smythe. So I think at this point, if we're narrowing it down to a manageable number, I'm comfortable including the Sedins. I don't know if I'm willing to green light them to definitely in quite yet.
Okay,
And not, and I won't get there.
no, and fair enough, Dan. But can we say that we're going to take 6 with the
I'm
combined?
comfortable with that. Sure.
Okay, all right, so that's good. All right, so we can sort of like push. All right, Vinny, I'm gonna ask you to sort of like itemize all the ones we've gone through, okay? So we're
Like
gonna.
just my own personal opinion on, the
No,
Sedins.
no, 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 I don't want your own opinion right now. I just want you to just put in a damn list, because I can't remember because I'm stupid.
A list
Mine,
of
you
who I
shook
believe
your
are
head too
deserving.
fast on that, but that's.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
My own list of who
Appreciate
I believe is
appreciate it.
deserving. We'll be
No,
here for a
just-
while if I do
just-
that.
Just, I need somebody to just say, okay, we've got the Sedins through, because I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah, like of course. I mean, Henrik and Daniel
Oh,
Sedin.
God damn it, just take a pen and just say Henrik and Daniel.
Yeah, obviously, both Henrik and Daniel deserve to make the Hall of Fame first ballot. Absolutely.
Okay.
Ooh,
Vinny,
first
just take a
ballot?
pen.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Really?
Okay,
Mhm.
I mean, my
Baseball-
problem is I like the point per game averages for a career, and they didn't get anywhere near that.
okay, but we're also looking at the last, okay. This year, goals and production have increased. We are, I think, escaping a 20-year period where PPG is non-existent. Because Jerome McGinley, one of my favorite hockey players of all time, if you were to compare his stats to anything of, let's say, Pierre Turgeon, who we might talk about later, you'd say, like, wait a minute, why is Turgeon out and McGinley in? Errors
Exactly.
change.
I agree with that.
Okay, so, so let's just table the Sedins. Apparently Vinny doesn't own a pen and neither do I, so.
But
I have a pen. I have a variety of pens, variety of
Yeah.
colors, and I can easily write them down. What
Well,
kind of
well,
paper
well-
would you like?
Oh. I can't think that far ahead. All right, so but can we do the Sedins as 2 of the top 12? Let's come up with 12.
They're
Can we do that?
finalists, sure.
Yeah, I would definitely at the very least say that they're finalists.
All right, I think we're doing more than the actual Hockey Hall of Fame. Because
Yeah,
God
but-
knows what they're doing.
Well, we don't know. They're not transparent.
But what-
That's
No.
fine.
I think it would be helpful for us to at least get down to finalists and include the Sedins on that
Okay.
list.
All
And
right,
then we'll just narrow it down from there.
all right, so Dan, you messaged me earlier and I agree with you on this. Roberto Luongo. Does anyone here have a problem putting Luongo as one of our finalists?
No
No.
issue at all.
No,
No, he's good.
All right, nothing more. Okay. All right, so we've got 3 finalists. So now what I'm going to ask from each of you is to come up with 2. So just 2 people, and I'm just going to go based on sort of the circle that I have on my little thing here. Glenn, I want you to come up, give me 2 people who you want to
2.
talk about. Just 2.
Just 2.
Just 2.
Okay, I mean, I have a couple other players, but I'm just gonna go straight homer with Pierre Turgeon.
Uh-huh.
Again, more than a point per game player, 500 goals. There's only 46 players in the NHL that have 500 goals. And Pierre Turgeon is one of them that's not in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And then he was #1 for the longest time as the top rated hockey player, not in the Hall of Fame on, what's that website again? Oh yeah, not in the Hall of Fame. Alexander
I hear it's
McGinley.
pretty good.
It is very good until you dropped Alexander McGinley out of the top spot for not in the Hall of Fame hockey edition.
Below the Sedins? I don't think
I would put, yes, I would put Alexander McGinley above both Sedins.
Okay, so you're giving us Pierre Turgeon and Alexander McGinley.
Yes.
Correct? All right, I like them both. All right, so that, I guess, if I go by circumference of whatever I see here, because those are 2 people that I'm pretty big onto. I'm going to give 2 names here. Jeremy Roenick, who I think should be considered. Jeremy Roenick is somebody who I think, well, okay, we'll leave that for later, but I know that there's somebody else here who's going to be pushing for Roenick, and I'm looking forward to hearing that point of view on that. The only other one that I want to bring up potentially, and that's Theo Fleury.
Are you looking at my list?
No, I was not looking at the list because I don't know your goddamn list. You can tell that Glenn and I, we've been bonding a lot. So like,
It's horrible, horrible.
and well, too bad. I'll go visit you in Antarctica, yeah, motherfucker. So those are 4 people here. All right, Chris, can you give us 2 people?
yeah, do you want 2 different than what's already been given?
You know what?
I would say yes.
McGillney was my number 3 behind the Sedins, so.
Okay.
All right, I'll go 2 different here. I would say just kind of a little bit of a hometown guy here. Curtis Joseph played his college hockey
Yeah,
here
yeah.
in Madison. And Henrik Zetterberg, like was mentioned before,
Yeah.
he's been a winner pretty much his whole career, and he's worked with the Red Wings.
Mhm.
He's definitely put his name in the hat there.
Okay. All right, Dan, I got an idea who one of them is going to be. I don't know who the other will be, but yeah, please.
All right. for, I was just looking at my list there. So there are a number of guys that I think are deserving that have not been mentioned yet. I'm going to go with both of our jerseys, Kirk. I'll start with yours, Winnipeg Jets, Keith Tkachuk.
Like him. Yep. Love him a lot. Yep.
And I will then go to my own with Rick Middleton.
Yep. Okay. Nifty. Okay. I love it. All right, Keith Tkachuk and Rick Middleton. All right, Vin, what do you got for us?
I'm gonna go a bit of a homer here with I'll take Mike Richter from the New York Rangers,
Great
you
one.
know, legendary goaltender. As you know, he led the Rangers to their championship victory in 1994, but he also won the MVP when he was tournament MVP when the US won the World Cup of Hockey victory. While, you know, 24th on the all-time list is not exactly the flashiest, I think in terms of his just total dominance throughout the entire run for the team, for the New York Rangers, I think he at least deserves strong consideration. And I don't know if he's mentioned yet, but, you know, I'm going to go Daniel Alfredson. Did anyone say him?
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I was going to.
Well, I'm shocked no one's mentioned his name yet. Daniel
Yeah.
Alfredson. When I think of the Ottawa Senators, specifically the current incarnation that was founded in the 1990s, and I think of their greatest player ever, I easily think of Daniel Alfredson.
I just want to point out that when Vinny says the current incarnation, those of us who know Vinny, we're thinking like, oh God, he's got to be thinking about the ones that sort of existed 50 years before he was born. I don't say this so much as a shot because he's awesome. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a show. I'm going to promote something right now. Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for, and you can see this on halloffame.com, where he makes the Hall of Fame case for some people you might think are obscure. So did I, but I always come out learning, even if I don't agree with them. So please check that out. Self-promotion.
Always,
I know I'm
thanks.
not.
Yeah, but when I think of the current incarnation of the Ottawa Senators, specifically the ones that have not won a bunch of Stanley Cups in the 20s and 30s, I think of Daniel Alfredson. I think of someone who's represented the great country of Sweden 14 times, won a gold medal in 2006, also won a silver in 2014, 75th player to ever reach 1,000 points. It's like easily all-time leader in points scored for the Senators, as well as plus minus in any season with 42. Most games played, goals and assists and points. Also, he had the first ever shootout goal in history. So that's a big historical impact.
Okay, interesting.
Very first ever. He also won the Calder as a rookie in 1996. He was an All-Star in 2006, part of the All-Star game 6 times. Also won the Clint Cancy Memorial Trophy, as well as, and he was also known as his leadership, manning the Senators for as long as he did, from all the way from 1995 until he was traded to the Red Wings in 2013. When I think of someone who has been a snub for so long, I always think of Daniel Alfredson. Other than Alexander McGinley, I always go Daniel Alfredson's my second choice.
Okay, all right, so that's a great one.
I stole your choice there, Kirk. Consider I was feeling you're
not
gonna.
at all.
No.
It's like I knew he was going to come up, so you didn't steal it at all. I went first, so all good. All right, Ron, can you give us 2 people?
Well, Daniel Alfredson was going to be mine. There you go, Vinny. But I'm just going to say something in the conversation comparing him and the Sedins. I know, you know, they won some end of year trophies that were pretty strong, but if you look at his points per game, his goals, and then his overall impact internationally as well, I mean, he seems like a good one that's been overlooked and doesn't get the hype of the Sedins. I did have one that's a little bit off the beaten path and probably not in the current culture, something that the committee would do, but this guy was incredible in the 70s internationally. You don't have a lot of stats out there, but that dominant USSR team, the Soviets, Boris Mikhailov, was just stealth, like he was on that line with Karlamov and Petrov, maybe. And it was just the guy would have blown up the NHL like almost like a LaFleur.
I love that choice. I really, really love that choice.
And the other thing too, and you guys from the Football Hall of Fame chat, I'm also very big on, if all things are equal and someone's up there in age and they have the accomplishments, get them in. I think he's like 78 years old.
Yeah, no, I like that. Do you have a second one?
Well, no. You
We
guys,
stole them all.
well, I could give you something that I would think is weak, and I, I not weak, but just not someone at the level of the folks. I mean, he has the stats. Someone like a Rod Brindamore,
Like
his
Rod Brind'Amour.
his coaching's pretty good. Obviously, with those bunch of jerks, but he definitely put up the points. But again, he was from that era where the points were a little bit higher.
Yep, no, and that's fair. That's sort of what this all is. All right, Robert, I know you can't hear us, but can you send us two people who you would sort of like consider?
I was actually looking at Brindamore, Ron.
Steve Larmer and, okay, Rod Brindamore, you've already said. Okay.
So we
you have a
gotta pick up
second
another one.
I like Larmer. That's a good one.
JC Tremblay.
Ooh, JC Chamblet. Okay. All right. So guys, so this is who we've got to pick 6 people of. And for those who are saying like, hey, where's the contributors? Where's the women?
That's me.
Yes, that's me. Yes and yes, but we're not doing that here today.
Fine.
So we're just going to call that for what it is.
Fine.
Okay.
That's
Fair
fine.
enough?
Don't worry.
All right.
Don't
And
worry.
for those who really want a hockey contributor, hey, on the winning website, notinhalloffame.com, and I'm going to promote something else. Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for
Frank Zamboni.
Frank Zamboni. And this kind of ties into something because you see, for those all wondering here, and Dan, I'm going to bring you in on this one here because you and I were sort of like messaging back and forth a bit today. And Vinny and I had said this on the Frank Zamboni show where, okay, which is we're talking hockey, but I'm the only Canadian amongst 7 Americans here. Or sorry, 6 Americans, well, of 7 people here. When Vinny and I were talking about Frank Zamboni's omission to the Hockey Hall of Fame, we noticed that he's in, and if you don't know who Frank Zamboni is, hey, look at the last name. What do you think he fucking invented? So.
He invented the nachos at hockey rinks, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? But Frank Zamboni is in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame. He's in the figure, what was the other ones been?
There's many Hall of Fames that he's been in. If I recall, I think it's like around, it's like 6 or 7 he's been in. I'll tell you right now, he's been in the Ice Skating Institute's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's been the NISMA Hall of Fame, Figure Skating Hall of Fame, World Skating Hall of Fame, National Inventors Hall of Fame, U.S. Hockey's Hall of Fame, and the U.S. Speed Skating Hall of Fame. And he also got a honorary doctor of engineering from Clarkson University.
Cool. But the Hockey Hall of Fame based in Toronto has ignored him. And you and I talked about this when we did our show. And I said, if he was Canadian, would he have gotten in?
Yes.
And Dan, this sort of ties in with, is there an anti-American bias? And I looked at the 18 people who are part of the committee. Only 3 are American. 1 is, okay, Jari Kurri's from Finland. There's a Russian, another European, and the rest are Canadian. And I'd like to think, selfishly, as a Canadian, hey, we're not biased against people. Well, I don't know.
I think it has been proven over the years with the votes, even somebody like Phil Housley, for example.
Oh, I love Phil Housley.
If Phil Housley, it is shocking to me that Phil Housley had to wait as long as he did to get in the Hall of Fame with his numbers.
Mhm.
Granted, he played at the same time as Bork and Coffee, etc. But and now having Roenick and Tkachuk on the list, both with over 500 goals, it's shocking to me how there seems to be a consistent theme of Americans getting a bit of a shaft. And I don't know. And again, part of it goes back to the transparency issue, but the way that on their actual website, they promote Stanley Cups in a column. The next column is Olympic gold medals. The next column is world championships. And I think we've all seen the world championships, like for the past however many years, they take place during the NHL playoffs. So it's not the best of the best. It's not like the World Cup of Hockey with Mike Richter leading the US to a victory. It's literally, either second-rate players or players on bad teams that are playing in it. So they don't carry the same weight. I don't know if the Hockey Hall of Fame gives it more weight than it deserves, or the Olympic gold medals more weight than they deserve. But strictly based on an NHL standpoint, it seems like the Americans have not been getting the type of love they deserve.
Yeah, and as a Canadian, for me to say that is, I don't know if it's the word hard or just learning in a way, because just my own hockey fandom was, when I was in my early 20s, there was no way I was going to cheer for an American hockey team, NHL team, because I was a Quebec Nordiques fan. So like, Ron, this is for you, buddy. So when Quebec became Colorado, done. You're not my team anymore. I'm from Canada. And then I became an Ottawa fan. Well, I should have stuck with you, Ron, because at least I would have seen a championship.
Not only that, you probably would have you would also have a team that did not win only one game on the road in their first season.
But okay, but we've got a Hockey Hall of Fame committee that is predominantly Canadian. And let's just be blunt. I'll say this again as a Canadian. It should be, but is it diverse enough?
No.
Looking at what I see, maybe not, because I've said that, and I said that to you, Vin, like before Dan and I had our conversation. I do believe that there's an anti-American bias subconsciously. I don't think that the people here are really thinking that, but it's hard for a Canadian to admit that the United States is as good as hockey as we are. It breaks us.
Yeah.
And it breaks me as a fan. What does it do to these people who are more ingrained than I am? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. What do you think?
Kirk, I do think part of it, given the benefit of the doubt for it being subconscious, I think part of it is how invested Canada is in hockey. And a good friend of mine, his cousin's son is an NHL player that got drafted, I believe, 4th overall a couple of years ago from Canada. And when he was like 12, everyone knew who he was in Canada. And so by the time these guys retire, they've played for the World Junior team, which everyone's invested in up there. They played for the Olympic team potentially, in addition to obviously playing in the NHL. So they're so invested in their careers, whereas, somebody like, a top American player, let's say Adam Fox. Adam Fox shows up on your radar, probably not until he's a Norris Trophy contender. Not when he's 12 years old, for sure. So it's just not the same investment in the players. And I think that's probably starting to change a little bit, and hopefully will change for the next generation. But I do think that plays a little bit of a factor. And especially the generation of American players with Roenick, Tkachuk, Guerin, Brett Hull, who some would argue is Canadian. But those
Ah,
guys
Brett.
also didn't have the best reputation in terms of being, the Guy Lafleur gentleman type. They trashed their hotel room in Japan at the Olympics, et cetera, et cetera. So, and Roenick obviously has put his foot in his mouth a couple of times in retirement that hasn't helped his cause. So,
So
we'll see.
look-
Tuchuk's kids might get in before he does at this point.
all right, so let's go into Roenick, because, and I've talked about this with the great Evan Nolan, the co-host of my other show, the Hall of Fame show. Check that out weekly. See what I did, Glenn? Or
I see what you did.
Yeah, thank you. All right, yeah.
The Bucknerverse.
Eat your heart out, Marvel.
Jeremy Roenick is someone who I'm a very big fan of, but I honestly believe that with the Hockey Hall of Fame, they've got this weird, I hate this word, but I'm going to say it, wokeness. And Jeremy Roenick, who we know what he got in shit for.
Mhm.
And Roenick has got a Hockey Hall of Fame resume. Can we all agree on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. But he was fired from, crap, what was it, NBC?
Yes.
Yeah, he was fired from NBC.
All right, thanks. And he was fired from NBC partly because he was a little right wing, but mostly because his female partner on some show threw him under the bus or something.
Yeah, Catherine Tappan.
All right, thank you. I'm blanking on the whole thing. So Glenn, can you sort of help me out on that? Like,
As I recall, I think he was on a radio show where he was alluding to either they were in a southern city for hockey or they were on vacation, and him and his wife and Catherine were at the pool and whatnot.
right, okay,
There was some
so
commentary about he was
we meet a menage
either a
a
podcast
trois.
or radio show, and how lucky I am with having Catherine Tappan on one hand and my beautiful wife on the other, and just being in that middle was I mean, guy talk, which you can get away with in the locker room, but when you're an NBC hockey analyst and you're broadcasting it across the nation in 20 whatever year it
2020.
was, you can't.
It was a tough year. The pandemic, the George Floyd protests, just so much stuff going on.
I'm pretty sure George Floyd did not keep anyone out of the Hockey Hall of Fame.
No. I mean, I'm talking about the culture, the vibe at that time, especially in America.
No.
But yeah, to your point, there is a divide, and
Kirk.
Go ahead, Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but he did it on, and I don't want to say the name of the podcast, but a very preeminent, probably the most aware podcast in hockey in the US.
Mhm.
And even the hosts who like being a little edgy were trying to coach him like away from what he was saying. And he just ran with it like to the end zone and got very graphic. And, it wasn't like he'd slip of a tongue with a little reference. It was pretty inappropriate.
So
Was that spin checklist?
I believe so.
Just to throw this out there, it's just my personal opinion. Obviously, everyone can view it differently. For me, it doesn't have. I guess that doesn't matter in terms of this. For me personally, I'm not saying, I'm not saying I agree with what he said. I'm not condoning anything. It just doesn't play any factor in whether or not I believe Jeremy Roenick should be voted into the Hall of Fame. And I know, like, for baseball in Boston, especially where I am, Kurt Schilling is a guy that has said a lot of things that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And one of the voters specifically said, for a borderline candidate, you just lost my vote because of that stuff, which, if you're a borderline candidate, that's certainly their prerogative. For me, it just doesn't carry any weight. I'm strictly judging his hockey career, which I think is Hall of Fame worthy. Jeremy Roenick made more All-Star games than any other player not in the Hall of Fame. He's the only person with 9 All-Star games not to be in the Hall of Fame. And 9 All-Star games if you only had that as your career and played 9 seasons and made the All-Star game every year, no matter what your career totals are, you're a Hall of Famer. But in addition to that, he has 500 goals, 500 assists, obviously 1,000 points as a result. It's just pretty clear cut that he's worthy. So I guess the only reason I intervened here is just to say, I understand why for some people that might play a factor. For me personally, it just doesn't at all. Before we get too far into what he said or why, whether or not it was appropriate, I don't think it was necessarily appropriate, but for the purposes of this conversation, I also don't really care.
Yeah,
I personally don't really mind either personally, especially considering that it doesn't affect his career, especially in, today's climate. While one could say that the Hall of Fame could be a bit more, progressive and whatnot, at the same time, I also know that Roenick, a big reason why he also believed he was fired was because of his political beliefs. And do I really agree with that? No, I don't. But that is also a mentality that a lot of people here in the States do feel. And that is somewhat similar to Schilling. And a big reason why I didn't mind, Schilling, even with that, is because if you decide to leave Schilling out, you're only feeding red meat to that side of the aisle, saying that, see, they're persecuting against me. I am one of you, and they're attacking me. And considering that a lot more Republicans watch hockey compared to basketball,
Okay,
they
but
would
but to
more than
that,
likely
and,
be tied
and,
with.
and you're, I don't disagree with you, but we're not talking now necessarily about this group of people who are looking at that are not Republicans or Democrats.
They're
They're
mostly-
predominantly Canadians. We've got
So they're
three
liberal or conservative,
well,
or
not
maybe
necessarily,
NDP.
but the 3 Americans, I don't know what they are who are on this list, who are on the group of, but I do know that overall they are predominantly woke. I have a theory that I'm going to bounce off all of you. I said this to Evan on the weekly show that you can listen to at notinahalloffame.com. See what I did there?
Universe.
Thank you. All right, appreciate that. But I honestly believe that the year that Haley Wickenheiser got inducted, they had 2 lesser people sort of go in, because they could have put in McGillney, they could have been in Roenick, they could have been a lot of other great people, but they had her, Guy Carbonneau, and I can't remember the other person, which just, considering what I do here, it says it all. But I honestly believed that they wanted to have Haley as the headliner. I truly believe that. Not that she wasn't the greatest female hockey player there ever was, because she was and she is. But sometimes I think they try a little hard. And I think it's going to hurt Roenick, even though that, Dan, I'm with you, and Vinny, I'm with you, and everyone here. Like, I am a huge Jeremy Roenick fan. Is he a bit of a blowhard? Sure. Was he not one of the great hockey players of his day? 500 goals in his day, considering that a good chunk of that was in the dead puck era, is massively impressive to me.
No, I agree with you, Kirk. To me, he was a Hall of Famer before what he said, and he's a Hall of Famer after what he said. His resume on the ice is what should be considered. And
yeah, and we're not talking Deshaun Watson or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Like we're talking about somebody who made a joke about
Yeah.
somebody who he probably said it to her at the same time, and she had to save her own ass or not. I don't know. I don't want to go any further than that, but
Yeah, Kirk, I think there's another thing.
Mhm.
You all kind of hit upon it. You've got only 18 people as the selectors, and it's a fairly narrow bunch of people based on the lack of transparency. And I hate to say this regarding Roenick. We saw what happened with T.O. with Canton. You can only imagine. Maybe they're worried that Roenick gets inducted scripted and starts doing something at the ceremony in terms of a speech that they're not going to like. You just can't predict what's in their minds, which I think it's ridiculous. He's a Hall of
Sure.
Famer, should have been in a few years ago.
I don't know if he would go that route. And the only reason I say that is he's on the podcast weekly on Craig Revay and Andrew Peters' podcast. And he's just still a good listen. I mean, he's a good hockey mind. He's entertaining. And he really hasn't gone off on anything on their show. So I think Spit and Chicklets just caught him in a mood, in a hockey player, boys being boys. And I went to high school with 4 hockey teams, hung around with the hockey players because they were a fun time, a good party. And they were hockey players. And that's something that you would hear. High school hockey, college
Yes.
hockey, that's talk that you would hear.
All right, so Glenn, to that point, that's awesome too, that you brought that up. I've joked, again, on the award-winning show, not in Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame show, thank you, that hockey players, when the cameras are on, are the most boring bunch of motherfuckers you've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And like you, Glenn, I've partied with a few players. When the cameras are off,
It's a good time.
they go from, it's like, all right, I'm gonna do something with the sword. Well, like there's no I in team. Just like that. And for when you have people who lose that boundary, like one of the least favorite people of all time in hockey, Sean Avery. I like Sean Avery because Sean's going to say what Sean wants to say. I love basketball players because they don't have a filter. And it's awesome. It's great. But in hockey, they're not taught that way. I'm convinced that in the OHL, I was just watching the Memorial Cup game, that somewhere there's a class where they're saying, all right, this is what you do with the media. And this is what you do with the media. And here's what you do with the media. And here's also what else we do with the media, which is be a boring person.
The cliche handbook.
Yes. And it hurts a Jeremy Roenick way more than it would in any other sport. Am I wrong here, guys?
I don't think you're wrong.
That's pretty
though
accurate.
Though I would also say in this day and age, as someone like myself, I as a Gen Zer, I always like the kind of people that speak their mind, because do I want to be, I mean, Sean Avery was my growing up. I would argue he was my favorite player on the Rangers. You know why? Because
You're so young,
he
we're
spoke.
amazed you don't have pronouns in your bio.
Well,
Thank you.
well, why would I? I know people on Twitter where their entire bio is just their sexuality. I'm not one of those people. I don't need people to tell myself that. And
Okay, sorry, I went off the deep end, but
no, in general, I like people that have personality, and that's a big reason why I like Sean Avery growing up. And not only that, he was the one guy that was always in newspapers, so I just gravitated towards him.
Yeah.
That still is the case for me today. I like people that speak their mind, though at the same time, I will also like people that are very quiet.
well, I think also too, we're all conditioned to like the people who are humble and just do their job and don't get, it's like, why is there's 7 of us from different places, and none of us are going to say anything bad about Tom Hanks.
One of my
Not a
professors
sports
hated
thing,
Tom
but
Hanks.
you know what I'm saying here with that, right?
Yeah.
Patrice Bergeron, maybe for hockey purposes.
I love Patrice Bergeron. I
Everyone
love
does.
him to pieces.
Right?
He's awesome.
So as far as Jeremy Roenick, the hockey player, is concerned, though, there is, as I said, he's a 9-time All-Star, which is more than anyone else not in the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
Out of everybody that has 500 goals and 500 assists, there are only 4 players not in the Hall of Fame, and 2 are American: Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk. The other 2 are Pierre Turgeon and Pat Verbeek, who was not mentioned by us
On my list.
for a number of reasons. Out of those 4 players, Roenick is the only one with over 20 shorthanded goals. He has the best plus minus at plus 153. So he was a two-way player. He was a full ice player, and he was a productive player for his entire career. So just sticking with the hockey facts and nothing else, how a player that is a 9-time All-Star with 1,200 points and plus 153 for his career isn't in the Hall of Fame is beyond me.
Okay.
Um,
I agree with you. I'm a huge Roenick fan. I think we, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I'll just leave it there. I just didn't want to get too derailed with the talk of, his comments or his personality too much. I think if it gets down to you only have one spot left on your ballot and it's between him and Daniel Alfredson, and you think they're equal as players and you like Daniel Alfredson's personality more, then that's a fair tiebreaker in all honesty. But at this point, when we're just narrowing people down and trying to find the most deserving players, to me, personality doesn't play a role at this point in the game.
Not
me.
to his level, and I'm with you. All right, so let's talk about Alfredson now. I'm an Ottawa fan, so I've probably seen, arguably, I don't know for sure, Alfredson more than all of you. Alfredson, to me, was the Ottawa Senators, yet Ottawa failed over and over and over again in the playoffs. Is it all Alfie? No.
No.
And we're all hockey fans here. We know that's not the case.
No, of all the sports, I think hockey is the most team-orientated sport, especially when you get to the playoffs.
So we have another guy who's a 6-time All-Star, like going to the All-Star point, an all NHL player. It just, God, he was so good. He was the heart of a team that, yes, they underachieved in the playoffs badly. Or did Toronto have their number?
Toronto had their number.
Toronto did have their number.
Oh, 4-0.
Oh, God, yeah. And it breaks my heart that, well, metaphorically. Obviously, my heart's not broken because here I am. But Alfie, to me, was one of these great players who I think he's going to get in there at some point. But is that correct that he's behind the Sedins, his fellow Swedes?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I with me, it depends on how you look at it.
All right.
I would say, considering how long Alfredson has waited, you could say that he should go ahead because you need to respect the queue. At the same time, I do wonder, do you think the more popularity of the Sedins and them always playing together,
Yeah. Okay.
it also helps their case
Yes,
a bit?
because,
Yeah. I mean, is it the twin novelty that's going to give him that edge up?
Well, yeah, I
Also,
mean,
too,
imagine
yeah.
drafted 2 and 3 by the same team and playing together from beginning to end. Like that is something you think of in fantasy stories or I don't know, Mother Goose stories or something. You don't actually see it, but truth is stranger than fiction because
it's a
fiction
bad
has to make
Disney
sense.
movie. Maybe
It's like a Disney movie
it's on
almost.
Disney
Like
plus
Twins on Ice? Is that what we're going to call the Sedin movie? The Twins on Ice?
A new film
Twins
by
on Ice
Brian
sounds like a
Palmer.
great. I mean, from beginning
Okay.
to end, they played their entire career together. I mean, same team from beginning to end, and it's like
Okay,
they're always
but
attached to the
They
Well,
6
did.
minutes.
Like,
Sorry, just
but-
throw it out. Here's a question: can we induct one of the Sedins?
No.
And if
No,
so,
you got to do both.
that's
you
what
have
I
to
See,
mean.
that's
They
the
have
pr-
packaged
yeah,
it.
Yeah, and that's not fair to the others.
Well,
Right.
okay, but is one that much better than the other? And really, no.
It's
They're-
not
they're-
even,
they're
it's
so
not even is
intertwined.
one that much better, but because all of the guys we're talking about are awesome.
identical
But-
points per
but
game.
Is one of the Sedins better than the other?
What do you value more, assists or goals?
That's the question. They both won an Art Ross. Henrik won a Hart Trophy. which Daniel didn't. So if we're looking for a tiebreaker, I would say Henrik is the center.
Yeah. Fair-
130
fairly.
assists,
Yeah.
one MVP. So it's certainly a thin margin regardless, but I do think that's something that is at least worth discussing is we need to discuss them as individuals. They're not even very similar players, despite being brothers. One of them, as you just said, is a playmaker. One of them's a goal scorer, and it's Ovechkin and Backstrom to some degree. Not that extreme, obviously. Ovi exceeds anything Backstrom's done, but Adam Oates and Cam Neely for my generation in Boston. Oates and Neely were both Hall of Famers, but they didn't need to go in as a package, and it wasn't just because they weren't brothers. So, just throwing it out there. It's
Well,
worth.
yeah, but they didn't
considering.
come out of the same womb.
That's
minutes
what
I
apart.
I'm
actually
saying.
made that more PC, Glenn, than what I was gonna do.
I thought you were gonna make it. I could feel that's where you were going somewhere along those
Oh,
lines.
Kirk.
So all I'm saying is it's worth considering each of their individual cases.
Yeah.
As we get closer to a final decision.
Then didn't you and I, we were joking back and forth where we were saying like, okay, no, we definitely, they go in together, but like, would they go on stage together?
I think what we said is like,
What did we
some people were
say?
thinking that they would have.
Are they gonna
same
wear the same
plaque.
suits together?
Some people were thinking they'd have the same plaque. I don't think they would.
like to thank you for this honor. Okay,
You know,
kind of like
that was
I would
the
say-
movie
Swedish
Stuck on
Chef
You.
impression ever.
Just mimic the Swedish Chef from the Muppets and just call it a day. That's all you got to do. Don't worry.
Or
Right, so
or you could make it like the movie Stuck on You, where they're kind of like attached as they're
I could have
Or
on
like, or like
stage.
have like the same suit where they're like Siamese twins almost, and just or be like just say one sentence, the other copies another, and just that's how you do the speech. I would say that one twin says one paragraph, the other twin says another paragraph, and let's see how that goes. I want to see their speech just to see how they would handle it. Actually, I'm not even joking. I would check it just for that.
I don't even know. They don't even put it on television. The Hockey Hall of Fame has done again.
It's on the NHL Network here in the States.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What channel is that?
587. It's 587. It's between MLB Network, which is actually in the same studio in Secaucus, New Jersey, as NHL Network, and NFL Network, which is
You didn't know
588.
that.
How do I know
Don't
that?
say
Because I've had
Secaucus.
I
Verizon
knew you
Fios
would
since-
know that.
I know that because I've had Verizon Fios since 2019.
Who did I lose?
February 18th, 2019.
Chris? You
Not
lost Chris.
2019, 2009.
Yeah, Chris will be-
That's when I got it. That specific date.
Oh.
That was the same day I got. That was the same time I got the Blu-ray.
All righty. Okay. Pierre Turgeon, Alexander Mogilny. So we got some Sabres here.
Yes, we
Who
do.
who wants to try to save these two? I'm a huge
Save.
person. Well, save, yeah, because I'm a big guy of Mogilny. I'm not of Turgeon. And I can explain why if anyone cares. But Glenn, I want to defer to you because you're the Buffalo guy.
As far as McGinley or Turgeon,
Either, whatever you want to say.
again, I think I brought it up earlier where there's 46 players that have 500 goals in the NHL.
Mhm.
And Turgeon is one of them that's not in. We discussed about Roenick. Again, he's not in. And back in his playing days, he was, I mean, you're talking 812 assists too. So he was the playmaker, he was the goal scorer, and he was the key piece in that trade that brought Pat LaFontaine to Buffalo. A trade that worked out fairly well for both teams. But I mean, Turgeon,
I can
Yeah.
tell you exactly why Turgeon's not considered.
okay, go ahead and tell me why Turgeon's not considered.
All right, so let's go back to this whole Canada USA thing or pro Canada bias. Pierre Turgeon was in. There was this bloodbath, sort of like this game that we're going to be talking about on the Classic Sports Review, where Ron's going to be part of that. along with Glenn, Ron. Yes, where we're going to be talking about the Detroit, Colorado series, or one specific game. Well, all right, in Canada, in the juniors, because we give a shit about that sort of thing, there was a big brawl between Team Canada and the two, I think, God, it might have been the Soviet Union then.
Soviet Union.
Back then, kids, you know, like Russia wasn't Russia, it was the Soviet Union, you see? Something like that. And okay, well, I'm not funny, I try. But anyway.
It's on the Rock'em Sock'em videos by Don Cherry, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is. Don Cherry, another person who sort of like Ronicked his way out of the Hall of Fame. See what I did there? Anyway.
A good one, but
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so Turgeon, out of all the players that were on the ice in this massive brawl, didn't go. He stayed. All right, Ron, you know what I'm talking about, right? So like,
Oh yeah, I remember it, watching it.
yes. So that's a big, giant no-no. Yes, we want to say in Canada, we're super hyper woke, but you better fight.
And now that's being eliminated from the game.
Well, he's never been considered. Yes.
Well, that
Why?
was a big, Kirk, that was a huge controversy at the time.
Yeah.
And he was labeled as soft. I mean, it was ridiculous being brought forward to the present day, but you got 18 people and a lack of transparency. So you don't know where their heads are.
And I'm guaranteeing you that is a giant part of why Pierre Turgeon is not even remotely considered for the Hockey Hall of Fame. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, because we started opening with this. There is a Canada bias. Should there be? Probably not, but there is. And at that point in time, if you look too, like, he was only a 3-time All-Star based on over 1,300 points. Yes, it was an inflated era, but only 3 All-Stars? This is my theory. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm wrong, but Pierre
like it.
Turgeon is.
I like a good conspiracy theory.
Oh, I love conspiracy theories. Even though I don't watch Fox News too much. But
you know, speaking of Fox News, we'll get to another candidate later on who's actually on there several times.
who's that?
Theo Fleury.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh,
actually. Oh,
gosh.
damn it. Okay.
Actually, that's actually a
Cringeworthy.
great segue, because Theo Fleury actually started the fight that Pierre Turgeon didn't join. He did a machine gun with his stick to the Soviet bench after he scored, and that is what set the whole thing off.
Oh, guys, did any of you ever see A Million Ways to Die in the West?
Yes, I have seen it, the Seth MacFarlane movie.
Right. All right. So this is pretty much what you do. It's just like, this is what Turgeon should have done. Just like find the one Russian guy who didn't want to fight either, and just say, "We're doing okay here."
I love MacFarlane.
And then
used
then
to
you're okay.
Mhm.
You
He
would've
had
been okay.
Gilbert Gottfried as Abraham Lincoln in that movie.
Oh God, yeah.
Really?
Yes, you did.
All right. So, but okay, let's go to Fleury, because like Fleury in Canada, and speaking of like whole woke shit, that I don't care what side you're on, guys. I don't give a crap, because I really don't. But Terran Fleury here has now become the guy who was how do I put this? Fighting against sexual abuse, because he was sexually abused bad. He drank his way out of the Hockey Hall of Fame because of what he went through. But now in Canada, if we've got a right wing, it's so weird. Your right wing athlete is Caitlyn Jenner, ours is Terran Fleury. One is a transgender, the other one got diddled. What the hell is wrong with our continent?
We need to see. Well, I'll say this. You ever see the first letter of Canada, United States, and Mexico?
Oh God, no. Okay, I never thought of that. You pervert. Okay. No, but I mean this shit. I mean, if we're going to talk about Ronick and how it hurts him, again, this is not us. This now hurts Fleury, who 3 years ago had it been sort of different because I don't know, guys. I mean, like was a bigger deal in Canada, obviously, than it was in the United States. So I would love to hear, like, what was the deal with Terran Fleury? Like, what did you guys hear about any of that stuff?
It was pretty powerful stuff. I mean, him telling his story about being abused, how it affected his life, how he overcame that, how he got help, and also too being someone speaking out at this point of his life so that others could see what he went through and could relate, because there could be other people who had been abused. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for braveness in relation to that. But the stuff, it's not even political or wokeness or anti-wokeness. Is stuff that he's said in recent years is just, it's like off the deep end. And again, you don't know what those 18 people are thinking.
I think also too with Fleury, if Fleury, how do I put it? If he was just a little bit better, then we don't have this conversation. Like Glenn, you and I have talked a bit about Kurt Schilling. If
Yes,
he
we
was
have.
just a little, Glenn Pulowski, Buffalo and Antarctica's greatest athlete, who was also blocked by Kurt Schilling. I don't know what you consider a bigger thing.
A bigger accomplishment, my triathlon exploits, the fact that I work in Antarctica are getting blocked by Kurt Schilling.
Yeah.
It's all in the top three.
Nice. Okay. Right. So, but there's something here. So, like, where do we go with separating? And Vin, you and I have talked about this. Where do we separate the art from the artist? And Fleury, to me, man, it's so tragic because he was so good for a 5'6" hockey player.
Well, he did all that battling demons that we didn't know much later.
Yeah.
And that alone should give him like a lifetime Masterson trophy or something along those lines.
Sure, but in some channel, like in Canada, he is now a right-wing Nazi troll, which he's not. Right-wing, sure. Is he? I don't know, man. I mean,
I wouldn't call him. I mean, I wouldn't
I
call him.
wouldn't either, but some do, Ben.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the same place that, you either have two extremes, like you get to like the Twitter people or the Tumblr people that will call you this, that, and you get to the other side, like even on like Reddit, you're going to see the other extreme. I would say that it's a similar situation with like, a Ronick, but I would argue even deeper, considering, the inner demons of the alcohol abuse. And at least with Ronick, he's a bit more quiet and reserved about that. But with Fleury, he's going on Fox News. Like my parents both watch Fox News religiously. Seeing him go on like Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham felt a little weird to me. Just seeing him like that, I'm like saying, now he's going to be out of the Hall of Fame. That's another guy along with Schilling that's going to be using this as a way for they're against me and whatnot. But
well, okay, but Kurt Schilling has made it very public that
Fleury would not
I'm
do
getting
that.
kicked out of the because the Baseball Hall of Fame, as much as how do I put this? The Baseball Hall of Fame, baseball is bigger than hockey. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Hockey Hall of Fame,
Popularity
right?
is nothing.
So, I mean, Kurt Schilling being excluded from the Baseball Hall of Fame is news. Terran Fleury, similar kind of career, or close to it, being excluded.
Fleury doesn't really talk about it as much, I would say, though.
No, but it's not going to, because it's also a hockey baseball bias.
Mhm.
Truthfully.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, man, knowing what we know, anyway. So we could move on from that. Who else?
How's it talked about in Canada? Because like it's not really said as much in America, but how is Fleury's view as a right-wing pundit? How is that viewed in
Depends
Canada?
who you are. I mean, like I don't give a shit about anyone personally, but I mean, if you're Justin Trudeau, you hate the guy. I hate
Oh, he
Justin
hates Trudeau.
Trudeau. Yeah, I hate Trudeau. Yes, I do, but it doesn't mean I hate liberals.
Not you. I'm returning to Fleury.
Okay, well, I'm just saying me. I hate fucking Justin Trudeau, but that's me. Doesn't mean I hate his party, but Fleury has gone. The one thing the Hockey Hall of Fame does not want is controversy. I truly believe that. They are as PC as can be when the cameras are on. Like I said, party with them and they're awesome. Right, Glenn?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So here's a question I have, and I know this is not what we're doing now, and maybe that's why we're only going with 6 instead of 8. But
We can go with
with the
A.
actual,
Oh, yeah.
well, that's what I was just going to ask is with the actual Hockey Hall of Fame, and let's just pick a couple of names, like let's say Vladimir Petrov and Jennifer Boudreau get in this year. You know, somebody with international accomplishments and a player, also probably one contributor, which I haven't taken a good look at the contributors, but probably 3 of them, let's say. When we were originally saying there's about 4 people per year, when you were saying that, is that for NHL players per year that tend to get in, or entire class? being
It's
4 people?
4 that they can have max. In terms
For
of players.
NHL or for including
4
the
players,
international and
4
females?
players, and then they can do a contributor, which could be international. Because like the last time they God, I can't remember his name, but it was somebody who never played in the NHL, and it was a pure Soviet player. It was a great choice, but you know, like the Hockey Hall of Fame is also very interesting too, because I don't know if any of you know this, the IIHF Hall of Fame is actually in the same building.
Yes,
I did not know that.
it is.
Yeah. So I mean, like if you go to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, you're actually also going to a very small portion that'll be the IIHF.
So without getting too sidetracked with the politics of everything,
Mhm.
is there I apologize. Was it Glenn that was going to talk about the Buffalo guys?
I touched on Turgeon just going on stats and disregarding the fact that he refused to fight in a junior tournament.
In the
Uh,
junior tournament.
The junior tournament, the IHF World Juniors, or was it under 20 or under? Yeah, it's under 20.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Alexander McGillney, I saw his first game that he scored seconds into the game. And after that, it's just like, okay, you're on the edge of your seats when you watch Alexander McGillney play.
Let's go
And
back
that
to
whole-
McGillney if we can, because McGillney is one of a handful of players, 70 NHL goals in a season.
The 76.
76. Holy crap. I
Tied
don't
that year
care
with Tamu
what era
Solani.
that is.
Mhm.
All right, guys. I know he never.
Not to mention what it took for him to get here.
Yeah.
I mean, his 2 line mates, Pavel Bure and Sergei Fedorov, eventually
Yeah.
came, but that was post Berlin Wall crumbling, Soviet Union finally crumbling. The fact that he was smuggled after a hockey tournament in the trunk of a car to get where he had to go to meet with Sabres general managers, get to another hotel, and then get him to the States is just an incredible story. And for the life of me, I can't find that documentary that they did on one of the local sports networks years ago, but it was just fascinating.
Mhm.
And you combine that with his stats, that alone should just breaking down the wall for communist player, former communist players and their ability to come here and play. Again, why he's not in the Hall of Fame, I do not understand. And he was a joy to watch.
He wore 89 because that was the year he defected.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's why Fedorov's 91 as well. So as Glenn was touching on, not only was he a ridiculous sniper, he was like a Soviet player coming to the NHL. That was huge news. He was the first one to do it and do it well. And I guess the 2 questions, because he was only actually 20 at the time, so he probably missed, you know, maybe 1 season, you know, 2 would be a stretch, but the fact that he was a trendsetter, and we all saw what the Soviet players did especially leading the Red Wings to so many titles. Do you get bonus points for that in our minds?
To me, you do. I mean, like
For-
if it's a hockey Hall of Fame, but yeah, that's me. But guys,
Oh, absolutely. You know my position on this stuff. When you're a trailblazer, I'm gonna push you over to the front of the line
you know
instantly.
your position. You're gonna vote for the puck.
The guy who invented the puck.
Yeah.
You act
Why
like
you
that's a
invented
joke.
the letter P?
The Zamboni
P?
driver.
Puck.
No, you're absolutely, I mean, trendsetter, groundbreaker. I mean, setting the stage for, again, Fedorov, Bure, and all the Russian players to do their thing in the NHL. Yeah. And he risked his life.
Mhm.
His family was still there in Russia. And I mean, nothing's changed in Russia. You're seeing what's going on with Brittany Griner and any
In
other.
Soviet Russia, we watch TV. TV watches you. Oh, sorry.
Exactly. That's what goes on in Russia. And yeah,
No.
and he defects and you're a defector. And you got to realize
No.
these hockey players are part of the military.
No, and I can tell you, I saw him play back in the day. I had glass seats, and he just looked very not lost, but he was 20 years old.
Mhm.
You know, just completely separated from his world. And I mean, that was like brave and exciting at the same time. But I just want to harken back to one thing that one of the big football Hall of Fame voters said in a room where everyone's like yelling their wish lists at him, and John McClane from formerly of the Houston Chronicle, like almost like freaked out. It was like, look, it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. Like someone like McGillney, was he a game breaker? We're like some of these
Couple
guys,
years,
did they just
yeah.
compile stats?
Yeah.
And yeah, they got 1,000 points, and they were like a very good player, or were they a player that just was electrifying
Okay.
and really a game breaker, or did something like Hall of Fame rather than just really very good?
I'll go back to, I mean, Pavel Bure and Fedorov are in the Hall of Fame. They were probably, again, I never watched all the junior tournaments, but during their junior years, yeah, they put up numbers. They put up numbers in the Hall of Fame. And McGillney LaFontaine, when they were together, I mean, you had to stop that line. And most nights you could not.
Okay. There's a couple other guys I really want to talk about. We talked about Luongo, well, really danced around Luongo, but there's two goalies that came up, Mike Richter and Curtis Joseph. If I could open with Richter's 1996 performance in the World Cup of Hockey. And if we're going to give a shit about international hockey, and this hall does, was incredible. He's also, that was 2 years removed from him winning the Stanley Cup. I know Mark Messier got all sort of the glory, Adam Leach a bit. Mike Richter, to me, is one of the best goalies not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I want to open up with Richter, and I can't recall who brought up Cujo. Curtis Joseph, another really, really good hockey player. So guys, what do you
Chris,
think?
did you bring up Cujo?
Yeah, I mentioned Curtis Joseph here, and he's a guy that kind of what was just mentioned, like by Ron there. Maybe a bit of a stats guy. He didn't really have the no hardware really, no playoff runs where he just kind of backstopped the team to the finals or anything like that. He was just a very solid goaltender. I think about 450 wins, 50 plus shutouts. Yeah, but he kind of bounced around. He was probably best remembered with St. Louis with the Blues there, but and obviously the nickname helped out. Having a nickname like Cujo with that will bring you attention.
It's better than a nickname of douchebag.
Hey, he played for the
Well, there's a
Leafs.
reason as to why, Cujo was the nickname as well. It's because that's from the Stephen King novel, which is, the Snarling Dog.
I was
Yep.
just gonna say that's why my NHL career didn't go well. Kirk douchebag Buckner.
But the way he
That
got
was your
his
nickname, Kirk?
Yeah,
the way
shoots
he-
left.
Yeah, but in
The
today's,
way he even got the name was weird too, because that was not his original last name. That's the last name that was taken from his stepfather, if I recall, when his parents gave him a family, took him in. And then
Cujo?
yes, his original
Back
last
of the
name,
hockey card
wa-
are you reading? That's awesome.
Monroe, if I recall, and then his parents gave him up, and then there was his family that took him in, the Eakins, but then the mother divorced, and then she divorced. I think the name of the father was Harold Joseph, and then that's how they took the name Curtis Joseph.
I did
Curtis
not
Shane
know that.
Joseph.
Crap, what don't you know, Ben?
I would say there's some things, but yeah, that was originally not even his last name, so it could have been something
Wow.
completely
He
different.
could have
and
been.
where
Kumo.
did he go to play juniors?
So he actually was a NCAA player who went to University of Wisconsin.
That was
Addison,
a
yeah.
rhetorical question.
Uh,
Wow,
I just wanna see if
Wisconsin,
we-
that's
I-
where you're coming from. Okay, 'cause I was wondering.
Wisconsin.
Yes, I was wondering, like, why are you pushing Cujo from Wisconsin? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so I saw him in college playing, you get the games on late night here on the public access after like 10:30. So so I'm playing college and you follow the hometown guys as they play in the game in the NHL. So like I said, he was a good player. Borderline Hall of Famer, but he's got some numbers that stack up against some of the other goaltenders that are not in there. Not quite to Luongo, maybe obviously no awards like Richter, but he played a strong game and was a decent player.
Okay, so we've got a couple other people that we need to sort of talk about. Rick Middleton.
I'll talk about Rick Middleton.
Yeah, please.
So Rick Middleton was a sniper, and he seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle over time. He was a dominant goal scorer. He had 7 consecutive seasons of 30 plus goals. And he also had 5 seasons in a row of 40 plus goals. And only 19 players in NHL history have gotten 5 seasons in a row with 40 plus goals. Out of those 19 players, only 2 are not in the Hall of Fame: Rick Middleton and, of course, an American, John LeClair. And John LeClair's excellence were pretty much limited to those 5 seasons when Eric Lindros was healthy and setting him up. And LeClair was excellent for a short period of time. Middleton just had a longer period of excellence. He also had 100 playoff points. And he did have the record for most points in a playoff series. I don't know if that's since been broken, but he had, I believe, 18 points in one series. So he was extremely consistent, had a very long career, and the numbers that he has, the other people with those numbers are all in. He won a Lady Bing. And, during the bulk of his career in Boston, which is really when he took off, and, it was Ray Bork's team. And I think those guys like Middleton are always punished is when it's somebody else's team, especially if you never won a cup. Secondary guys without a cup don't get the same press, but he was a sniper, and this wasn't just racking up second assists. He was scoring goals, and he was doing it with, a bunch of line mates who are not Hall of Famers. So I think he's been overlooked for a long time. I think he continues to be overlooked, and I think numbers like that with 5 consecutive seasons of 40 goals. I don't know, aside from Ovechkin, when the next time that's going to happen. So I think the further we get away from his career, the better it looks. And I think he is somewhat punished for being a member of that era where numbers were inflated to some degree with the goal scoring. but this is not a case of a guy playing 20 years and racking up great career numbers because he managed to average 60 points a season for 20 years. This is a guy that had a decade of excellence. And in a way that I don't think we'll see again for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, and to just add too, he was buried in an era of snipers. Like if you look at the all-star teams, you'll see Bossy, Messier, Lanny McDonald, Goulet, and guys like that. I mean, the guy had, is it 33 points in 17 playoff games?
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
like, and he was just like 10 points or so short of 1,000.
Mention if
Beyond the
Boston
goal
would have
scoring.
won one of those too.
Right. And with his playoff points, he is over 100, but I do agree with Ron that, if it were baseball, I think those, 10 points make a difference to get 1,000. Hockey doesn't seem to have magic numbers the same way baseball does. And I think that's why I find their Hall of Fame so infuriating, because whether or not I think Craig Biggio is a Hall of Famer, I acknowledge the fact that a guy with 3,000 hits belongs in the Hall of Fame. With the Hockey Hall of Fame, there's a slew of guys with 500 goals or 1,000 points or, Chris Osgood, who we haven't even mentioned, has 3 Stanley Cups as a goalie.
Mhm.
And so what is the criteria? And I think a lot of, for me, goes back to, again, what Ron was saying when he was talking about, this isn't the Hall of Very Good. This is the Hall of Fame. This is the Hall of Great. To me, Rick Middleton was a great player. To me, Keith Tkachuk didn't just rack up numbers. He was a great player. He was a power forward. He followed Cam Neely. That position doesn't really exist because everyone's cycling and there's not really a guy that's going to get 100 points and 200 penalty minutes in the same season. Like you're just not going to see that anymore. And Keith Tkachuk had 500 goals, 500 points, well over 1,000 penalty minutes. And he was just a tough physical player that the coaches had to beg to stop fighting. Same with Neely, because he was too valuable to sit in the penalty box for 5 minutes. But you look at the way his kids play now, it's very similar. And to me, guys like that stand out, that you're like, oh, we're playing Winnipeg tonight, I can't wait to see Tkachuk, or we're playing Buffalo, I can't wait to see McGillney. I didn't necessarily feel that way about Pat Verbeek, Brian Propp, Rob Brindamore, a couple of these other guys, Pierre Turgeon, even, to be honest, guys that might have the same numbers, but aren't at that level to me. And so if we're really going to try to narrow down this list to let's say 8 even, you have to start thinking about the elite guys. Alfredson
Mhm.
was the face of the Ottawa Senators. So to me, that does carry weight, being the face of a franchise. I just think guys like Middleton do get a little overshadowed, especially with his elite years being at the same time as Bork, and his center for his best years was Barry Peterson, who they traded to Vancouver for Cam Neely.
Man, there is a
And Barry Peterson,
forever. Yeah.
if Barry Peterson's career trajectory had continued and he had become a Hall of Fame player, that would have a trickle down effect on Rick Middleton as well, because there is something to be said for Hall of Fame duos and that type of thing. It took Lindros so long to get in the Hall of Fame that no one considered Leclerc, because that was Lindros's team. So until Lindros got in, Leclerc can't even be in a conversation.
I think
I think there's a lot of that going on. So that long-winded speech is just my way of saying, my wife has a timer on, and I'm due upstairs soon. So I do think I do just want to really stress the point that we're not. I don't think any of us are debating the players we're mentioning are great. I think we just are trying to find the greatest
right.
out
All right,
of these
so
players.
out of respect for wives, because I know that because my wife says a lot of things. Oh God, my first wife. God damn it. She can go fuck herself. But anyway, Glenn, you got nothing on that?
I was gonna talk about you as being the trophy husband.
Well, that's now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know anything about your first wife.
Oh yeah, I had a first wife. God damn.
Well, I know you do. We just don't talk about her all that often.
Well, why would I? She trailer park piece of. But anyway, sorry, was that out loud?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So I think at this point, do we? Because again, let's respect time. I think we've made some pretty good picks. For those we haven't talked about, there's Henrik Zetterberg that was discussed, Boris Mikhailov, Rod Brindamore, Steve Larmer, JC Tremblay, all of whom are amazing hockey players. So what I think we should all do is pick 5 people right now, and we're all going to send them to Vinny, because I'm assuming that the youngest person can count better than I can, because I can't. Sound good?
Sure.
Why don't we say 6 if that's okay with you?
6 is
'Cause
fine.
if that's the number we're going for,
Oh no, I was
feel
just saying we're going to in 6, but we're still going to vote in 8.
okay. Then why don't we vote for 8 just to see if we can get a little separation?
Works for
Is
me.
that okay?
I'm fine with either road.
What are we voting? How many are we putting down?
All works. So let's do that. Sounds good. All right. You know what?
Hey, we don't know how it does, so we'll do whatever.
All right. You know what? We're going to just do all this open. So you know what? So then, if you can, just sort of like tabulate them all.
Okay, I'm gonna. Should I put it in the chat?
Nah, just count them.
Okay, I'm gonna get a sheet here.
So are we doing this verbally or do
Yeah,
we
we're
just
going to
send a
do it. Yeah, we'll
message?
do it verbally.
Oh, I was gonna text Vinny.
And we'll just do it verbally because, like, I think with the 7 of us here, well, except for Rob,
You know, actually, I would suggest maybe texting me.
No,
I would suggest maybe texting me and saying it and also texting. So I
Robert
remember.
can't because his it's not working for him. So
I also have a spreadsheet open if that helps. I can just keep track of both.
all right, so Dan, okay,
I can do that.
All right, so that works. All right, so Glenn, just give your top 8, and we're just gonna run
Top 8.
top 8, vote 8, or you know what? If you don't have 8, just up to 8. You don't have to.
Turgeon, Roenick, Fleury, McGillney, Alfredson. We did bring up Tkachuk, right?
Yep.
That's 6.
No Sedins or
Am I
Luongo and Richter.
sorry, am I tabulating these?
Yeah, you
Or-
said you had the spreadsheet open, right?
I could text you those, Vinny.
Oh.
Vinny, why don't you go for it, pal?
Want me to say my 8s?
No, I mean, why don't you tabulate them if you don't mind?
Oh, sure. I'm gonna just sheet right here.
no
Would you mind,
Sedins.
Would you mind telling me those? Mind telling me those again, so that way I have them down.
Want me to
Okay,
go
so
again?
okay, so
I'm just texting you.
okay, so let me just list the names right here. Okay. Warmer. Okay. Rod Brindamore. Wars. Love. Let me see. Tremblay. Me. Rick. Sedin. Neil Sedin. Okay, so I got Robert's Glenn's just okay, so your turns you're on. Yuri Roenick. Okay, A lot of great news here.
Ribbit.
No, Robertson. Yeah, I'm using just old pen and paper, so that way it's easier for me.
It's fine.
Keith.
You know, Kirk, I do miss the frogs breaking the silence.
Okay, it's the whistling frogs that I used to have. in our
The
place.
Budweiser
Yeah.
frogs, like those.
Yeah. You don't miss that. I don't miss it. I do not miss that. I love how no matter where we go, Glenn, we're always like the most international show on what we do.
I will say that I broke up the Sedines on my ballot.
Wow.
You rebel, you.
Wow.
Would you
Okay,
value
I-
more, assists or goals?
Assist.
Damn.
Hard trophies, actually. But in this particular case, it went to the guy with the assists.
You know, I thought Ovechkin should have won that year.
Okay, so Glenn, I got your name so far. The only one with two are McGinley and Richter. Everyone else is one that's listed.
All right. I
All
can
right,
share
so-
mine.
yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
Sure, you could say yours. You say yours both ways.
All right. I have Henrik Sedin,
Okay, so Henrik Sedin.
Henrik Zetterberg,
Okay, Henrik Zetterberg.
Well done.
Henrik Lundqvist. No, I'm just kidding.
Not yet, not yet.
I was on a Henrik roll. Roberto Luongo, Alexander McGillney, and I would like to give a shout out to Glenn because coming into tonight, I don't think I was considering him strongly, and I feel like that's a solid pick by the end of the night. Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, Rick Middleton, and
Okay.
Daniel Alfredson.
So that's two people who got them in. Ron.
How many do you want?
Is okay, up to 8. You can do,
Okay,
you don't have
Well,
to
I'll
do
be-
8, but you can do up to 8.
okay, let's go with Alfredson. McGillney. Roenick. Again, this is my pet project. Boris Mikhailov. I know it's only going to get one vote.
Actually, I don't think it. I wouldn't say so.
Okay,
Okay.
nobody asked you right now. Just like, tabulate.
Okay, so I'm getting this down, Milton. Have
Do you want to start over, Vinny?
no worries. The one guy was my phone was ringing. That's why the thing was going off. Yeah, mind saying that again, Ron?
Sure. Let me go from the Alfredson,
Daniel Alfredson,
McGillney,
Alexander McGinley,
Boris Mikhailov,
Palov,
and there was someone else. Jeremy Roenick,
Roenick,
Roberto Luongo,
Longo,
Henrik Sedin,
Eric Sedin.
and Ray Ferraro. No, I'm just kidding.
Ray
but-
Ferraro was good.
And also let me throw in Mike Richter.
Mike Richter.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll
you,
leave
you
it at
made,
that.
you made sure to come back on camera to say Mike Richter because I have a hat
Yeah.
on.
Well, no, I was trying to, I'm on my phone on the video, so I wasn't sure if I had to message you. So that's why I went off, but let's leave it at that. I intentionally didn't pick both Sedins because I just think there's a backlog and those guys need to be taken care of
Wow,
first.
This is
That's
not
fine.
what I saw coming.
Okay,
at
so
all.
far, I got 4 people's votes. So far, 4.
Four, including you.
I did not put mine yet.
Wait, so we have Glenn, Ron, and
Roberts. and Dan.
Okay, Robert, you already put in yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you announce Robert Smith, Vinny?
Yeah, Roberts. Oh, mine. Okay, I'll give mine out. McGillney, because of course I love my Trailblazers. speaking of Trailblazers, there's no way to choose someone like Mikhailov. Let's be real here. There's no way I would not. The 9 All-Stars, I don't care what he said. Alfredson, I'm huge with that. So what's that, 5 so far? Was it 4? McGillney, Mikhailov, Roenick, Alfredson, that's 4. Luongo, it's 5. Both Sedins, and I'll go, I'm gonna go in Keith Kachuk.
Okay. All right, so that leaves Chris and then me. So Chris, go ahead.
Okay, so I got Henrik Sedin, Daniel Sedin,
Okay.
Roberto Luongo, Alexander Mogilny, Keith Kachuk, Daniel Alfredson, Jeremy Roenick, and we didn't talk about him much, but Henrik Zetterberg.
Okay. All right, so that leaves me with the final. Both Sedins, Luongo, Roenick, Alfredson, Richter. I'm not going 8, just those 6.
You're dead to me.
No. Okay. So, that's all our votes. There's only one guy that got unanimous, and that was Jeremy Roenick, which
Not who I thought going in, but okay. So Roenick is in. Who else we got there, Ben? Sorry. If we decide we're gonna do 6 or 8, 6, 7, or 8, 8 guys.
Maybe if there's a clear cutoff.
Yeah, okay,
let's
yeah, well, let's
wait.
Roenick, we get him in, he's unanimous. Then we get the one that have 6. There are 4 guys that have 6. That is Alexander McGinley, Henrik Sedin, Daniel Alfredson, and Roberto Luongo. And then the last guy is
Sorry, say that again. All right, so we got McGillney, Henrik Sedin.
McGillney, Henrik Sedin,
Yeah.
Daniel Alfredson, and Roberto Luongo. So that's that is a total of 5. And if we're having 6, there's one more. And right now it's tied between Sedin, Richter, and Chuck for 4. There's no one that has 5 votes.
Okay, so Sedin, Kachuk, and Richter.
Yes.
All right, guys, are we cool with this 8? I am cool with this 8.
I like this 8 personally,
We got it.
especially as there was no clash last year.
So this is like a class combining 2 classes. When we do this again next year, it's not going to be 8, it's going to be maximum 4. And in theory, this works. What do you guys think?
I love it. I love this class. I have no issue with any of these.
It's a good class, and you could also get the music from the movie Thelma and Louise, and it would dovetail pretty nicely. Kirk's laughing.
What song from Thelma and Louise? Not where they're going over the Grand Canyon and die, are we?
I'm sorry. I'm just being silly.
All right.
And this is our Hall of Fame class.
Thelma
We have
Louise? Okay, which one of you do I want to hold hands with, Glenn? Okay, none of you want to do that with me. That's okay.
But that was a
That's
Milbury
fine.
joke. That was a Milbury 2010 or 2011 finals joke.
Gotta look that up because I'm lost. Oh shit! Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I will say I don't object to the class at all. I will say I find Mike Richter to be the most surprising member of it.
Really? See, for me, it's Kachuk.
Yeah, for me, it's Kachuk.
Yeah. Maybe I'm biased because I saw Kachuk play in high school, and playing like him was basically my goal. Unsuccessfully, but that style of play I just loved so much, and it felt like he should have been on an original six team his whole career, whether it was, the Bruins or the Rangers or the Canadian, anyone. He had an original 6 vibe to him, and he ended up in Winnipeg, St. Louis, and Arizona. So
It also
Uh,
forget the half season he spent in it.
spent where? Sorry,
He spent for half the season when the Thrashers went to their only playoff appearance when they won the
Oh, yeah?
Southeast Division. Yeah, he was traded there. He played like 18 games for them. Then they got swept by the Rangers in the first. Didn't make the until they were the second incarnation of the Winnipeg Jets. Funny enough, Duck played for the original.
I was gonna say that he was the most capable guy of probably the last 25 years to get a Gordie Howe hat trick. And ironically, the all-time leader in Gordie Howe hat tricks was on the list and not mentioned by one person tonight, including myself. And that was Rick Tocchet.
Love that guy. All right, guys. So I guess with this, we've come up with 8 people who we think would be in this class, one of which I may or may not have sold cocaine to. But anyway.
All righty then.
And with that, the Halloween show is closed. This ends the Bucknerverse. Thank you all who have been a part of this. We're going to do a lot more of this in the future. You're all awesome. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.